Chapter 23 of Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain.
The rainy night had ushered in a misty morning, half frost, half drizzle, and temporary brooks crossed our path, gurgling from the uplands. My feet were thoroughly wetted. I was cross and low, exactly the humour suited for making the most of these disagreeable things. We entered the farmhouse by the kitchen way to ascertain whether Mr. Heathcliff were really absent, because I put slight faith in his own affirmation. Joseph seemed sitting in a sort of Elysium alone, beside a roaring fire, a quart of ale on the table near him, bristling with large pieces of toasted oatcake, and his black short pipe in his mouth. Catherine ran to the hearth to warm herself. I asked if the master was in. My question remained so long unanswered that I thought the old man had grown deaf, and repeated it louder.
"Nay,"
he snarled, or rather screamed through his nose.
"Nay, you mun go back where you come from."
"Joseph!"
cried a peevish voice, simultaneously with me, from the inner room.
Oh, how often am I to call you? There are only a few red ashes now. Joseph, come this moment.
Vigorous puffs and a resolute stare into the grate declared he had no ear for this appeal. The housekeeper and Hareton were invisible, one gone on an errand, and the other at his work probably. We knew Linton's tones, and entered.
"Oh, I hope you'll die in a garret, starved to death,"
said the boy, mistaking our approach for that of his negligent attendant. He stopped on observing his error. His cousin flew to him.
"Is that you, Miss Linton?" he
said, raising his head from the arm of the great chair in which he reclined.
"No, don't kiss me. It takes my breath. Oh, dear me. Papa said you would call,"
continued he, after recovering a little from Catherine's embrace, while she stood by looking very contrite.
"Will you shut the door, if you please? You left it open, and those detestable creatures won't bring coals to the fire. Oh, it's so cold."
I stirred up the cinders and fetched a scuttleful myself. The invalid complained of being covered with ashes, but he had a tiresome cough and looked feverish and ill, so I did not rebuke his temper.
"Well, Linton,"
murmured Catherine, when his corrugated brow relaxed.
"are you glad to see me? Can I do you any good?"
"Why didn't you come before?"
he asked.
"You should have come instead of writing. It tired me dreadfully writing those long letters. I'd far rather have talked to you. Now I can neither bear to talk nor anything else. Oh, I wonder where Zillah is. Will you,"
looking at me,
"step into the kitchen and see?"
I had received no thanks for my other service, and being unwilling to run to and fro at his behest, I replied, "Nobody is out there but Joseph."
"I want to drink,"
he exclaimed fretfully, turning away.
"Zillah is constantly gadding off to Gimmerton since Papa went. It's miserable, and I'm obliged to come here. They resolved never to hear me upstairs."
"Is your father attentive to you, Master Heathcliff?" I asked, perceiving Catherine to be checked in her friendly advances.
"Attentive? He makes them a little more attentive, at least,"
he cried.
"Oh, the wretches! Do you know, Miss Linton, that brute Hareton laughs at me. Oh, I hate him. Indeed, I hate them all. They are odious beings."
Cathy began searching for some water. She lighted on a pitcher in the dresser, filled a tumbler, and brought it. He bid her add a spoonful of wine from a bottle on the table, and having swallowed a small portion, appeared more tranquil, and said she was very kind.
"And are you glad to see me?"
asked she, reiterating her former question, and pleased to detect the faint dawn of a smile.
"Oh, yes, I am. It's something new to hear a voice like yours,"
he replied.
"Oh, but I have been vexed, because you wouldn't come. And Papa swore it was owing to me. Oh, he called me a pitiful, snuffling, worthless thing, and said you despised me, and if he had been in my place, he would be more the master of the Grange than your father by this time. But you don't despise me, do you, Miss—"
"I wish you would say Catherine, or Cathy."
interrupted my young lady.
"Despise you? No. Next to Papa and Ellen, I love you better than anybody living. I don't love Mr. Heathcliff, though, and I dare not come when he returns. Will he stay away many days?"
"Not many,"
answered Linton.
"but he goes on to the moors frequently, since the shooting season commenced, and you might spend an hour or two with me in his absence. Do say you will. I think I should not be peevish with you. You'd not provoke me, and you'd always be ready to help me, wouldn't you?"
"Yes."
said Catherine, stroking his long soft hair.
"If I could only get Papa's consent, I'd spend half my time with you. Pretty Linton, I wish you were my brother."
"And then you would like me, as well as your father,"
observed he, more cheerfully.
"But Papa says you would love me better than him and all the world if you were my wife, so I'd rather you were that."
"No, I should never love anybody better than Papa."
she returned gravely.
"And people hate their wives sometimes, but not their sisters and brothers. And if you were the latter, you would live with us, and Papa would be as fond of you as he is of me."
Linton denied that people ever hated their wives, but Cathy affirmed they did, and, in her wisdom, instanced his own father's aversion to her aunt. I endeavoured to stop her thoughtless tongue. I couldn't succeed till everything she knew was out. Master Heathcliff, much irritated, asserted her relation was false.
"Papa told me, and Papa does not tell falsehoods,"
she answered pertly.
"My Papa scorns yours,"
cried Linton.
He calls him a sneaking fool."
"Yours is a wicked man,"
retorted Catherine.
"and you are very naughty to dare to repeat what he says. He must be wicked to have made Aunt Isabella leave him as she did."
"She didn't leave him,"
said the boy.
"You shan't contradict me."
"She did,"
cried my young lady.
"Well, I'll tell you something,"
said Linton.
"Your mother hated your father. Now then."
exclaimed Catherine, too enraged to continue.
"And she loved mine,"
added he.
"You little liar! I hate you now,"
she panted, and her face grew red with passion.
She did,
sang Linton, sinking into the recess of his chair, and leaning back his head to enjoy the agitation of the other disputant who stood behind. "Hush, Master Heathcliff," I said. "That's your father's tale too, I suppose."
"It isn't. You hold your tongue,"
he answered.
She did, Catherine. She did.
Cathy, beside herself, gave the chair a violent push, and caused him to fall against one arm. He was immediately seized by a suffocating cough that soon ended his triumph. It lasted so long that it frightened even me. As to his cousin, she wept with all her might, aghast at the mischief she had done, though she said nothing. I held him till the fit exhausted itself. Then he thrust me away and leant his head down silently. Catherine quelled her lamentations also, took a seat opposite, and looked solemnly into the fire. "How do you feel now, Master Heathcliff?" I inquired, after waiting 10 minutes.
"I wish she felt as I do,"
he replied.
"Spiteful, cruel thing. Hareton never touches me. He never struck me in his life. And I was better to-day. And there—"
His voice died in a whimper.
"I didn't strike you,"
muttered Cathy, chewing her lip to prevent another burst of emotion. He sighed and moaned like one under great suffering, and kept it up for 1/4 of an hour, on purpose to distress his cousin apparently, for whenever he caught a stifled sob from her, he put renewed pain and pathos into the inflections of his voice.
"I'm sorry I hurt you, Linton," she
she said at length, racked beyond endurance.
"but I couldn't have been hurt by that little push, and I had no idea that you could either. You're not much, are you, Linton? Don't let me go home thinking I've done you harm. Answer! Speak to me!"
"I can't speak to you,"
he murmured.
"You've hurt me so that I shall lie awake all night, choking with this cough. If you had it, you'd know what it was. But you'll be comfortably asleep while I'm in agony, and nobody near me. I wonder how you would like to pass those fearful nights."
And he began to wail aloud for very pity of himself. "Since you are in the habit of passing dreadful nights," I said, "it won't be Miss who spoils your ease. You'd be the same had she never come. However, she shall not disturb you again, and perhaps you'll get quieter when we leave you."
"Must I go?"
asked Catherine dolefully, bending over him.
"Do you want me to go, Linton?"
"You can't alter what you've done,"
he replied pettishly, shrinking from her.
"unless you alter it for the worse by teasing me into a fever."
"Well, then, I must go,"
she repeated.
"Let me alone, at least,"
said he.
"I can't bear your talking."
She lingered and resisted my persuasions to departure a tiresome while. But as he neither looked up nor spoke, she finally made a movement to the door, and I followed. We were recalled by a scream. Linton had slid from his seat on to the hearthstone, and lay writhing in the mere perverseness of an indulged plague of a child, determined to be as grievous and harassing as it can. I thoroughly gauged his disposition from his behaviour, and saw at once it would be folly to attempt humouring him. Not so my companion. She ran back in terror, knelt down and cried and soothed and entreated, till he grew quiet from lack of breath, by no means from compunction at distressing her. "I shall lift him on to the settle," I said, "and he may roll about as he pleases. We can't stop to watch him. I hope you are satisfied, Miss Cathy, that you are not the person to benefit him, and that his condition of health is not occasioned by attachment to you. Now then, there he is. Come away. As soon as he knows there is nobody by to care for his nonsense, he'll be glad to lie still." She placed a cushion under his head, and offered him some water. He rejected the latter, and tossed uneasily on the former, as if it were a stone or a block of wood. She tried to put it more comfortably.
"I can't do with that,"
he said.
It's not high enough."
Catherine brought another to lay above it.
"That's too high,"
murmured the provoking thing.
"How must I arrange it, then?"
she asked despairingly. He twined himself up to her, as she half knelt by the settle, and converted her shoulder into a support. "No, that won't do," I said. "You'll be content with the cushion, Master Heathcliff. Miss has wasted too much time on you already. We cannot remain 5 minutes longer."
Yes, yes, we can,"
replied Cathy.
He's good and patient now. He's beginning to think I shall have far greater misery than he will to-night, if I believe he is the worse for my visit, and then I dare not come again. Tell the truth about it, Linton, for I mustn't come if I have hurt you.
You must come. You must cure me,
he answered.
You ought to come because you have hurt me. You know you have extremely. I was not as ill when you entered as I am at present, was I?
But you've made yourself ill by crying and being in a passion. I didn't do it all,
said his cousin.
However, we'll be friends now. And you want me. You would wish to see me sometimes, really?
I told you I did,
he replied impatiently.
Sit on the settle, and let me lean on your knee. That's as mamma used to do. Whole afternoons together. Sit quite still, and don't talk. But you may sing a song if you can sing, or you may say a nice, long, interesting ballad. One of those you promised to teach me. Or a story. I'd rather have a ballad, though. Begin.
Catherine repeated the longest she could remember. The employment pleased both mightily. Linton would have another, and after that another, notwithstanding my strenuous objections, and so they went on until the clock struck 12, and we heard Hareton in the court returning for his dinner.
And tomorrow, Catherine, will you be here tomorrow?
Asked young Heathcliff, holding her frock as she rose reluctantly. No, I answered, nor next day neither. She, however, gave a different response evidently, for his forehead cleared as she stooped and whispered in his ear. You won't go tomorrow, recollect, miss, I commenced, when we were out of the house. You are not dreaming of it, are you? She smiled. Oh, I'll take good care, I continued. I'll have that lock mended, and you can escape by no way else.
I can get over the wall,
she said, laughing.
The Grange is not a prison, Ellen, and you are not my gaoler. And besides, I'm almost 17. I'm a woman. And I'm certain Linton would recover quickly if he had me to look after him. I'm older than he is, you know, and wiser. Less childish, am I not? And he'll soon do as I direct him, with some slight coaxing. He's a pretty little darling when he's good. I'd make such a pet of him if he were mine. We should never quarrel, should we, after we were used to each other? Don't you like him, Ellen?
Like him? I exclaimed. The worst-tempered bit of a sickly slip that ever struggled into his teens. Happily, as Mr. Heathcliff conjectured, he'll not win 20. I doubt whether he'll see spring indeed, and small loss to his family whenever he drops off, and lucky it is for us that his father took him. The kinder he was treated, the more tedious and selfish he'd be. I'm glad you have no chance of having him for a husband, Miss Catherine. My companion waxed serious at hearing this speech. To speak of his death so regardlessly wounded her feelings.
He's younger than I,
she answered, after a protracted pause of meditation.
And he ought to live the longest. He will. He must live as long as I do. He's as strong now as when he first came into the north. I'm positive of that. It's only a cold that ails him, the same as papa has. You say papa will get better, and why shouldn't he?
Well, well, I cried. After all, we needn't trouble ourselves. For listen, miss, and mind, I'll keep my word. If you attempt going to Wuthering Heights again, with or without me, I shall inform Mr. Linton, and, unless he allow it, the intimacy with your cousin must not be revived.
It has been revived,
muttered Cathy sulkily. Must not be continued, then, I said.
We'll see,
was her reply, and she set off at a gallop, leaving me to toil in the rear. We both reached home before our dinner-time. My master supposed we had been wandering through the park, and therefore he demanded no explanation of our absence. As soon as I entered, I hastened to change my soaked shoes and stockings, but sitting such a while at the heights had done the mischief. On the succeeding morning I was laid up, and during 3 weeks I remained incapacitated for attending to my duties, a calamity never experienced prior to that period, and never, I am thankful to say, since. My little mistress behaved like an angel in coming to wait on me and share my solitude. The confinement brought me exceedingly low. It is wearisome to a stirring, active body, but few have slighter reasons for complaint than I had. The moment Catherine left Mr. Linton's room she appeared at my bedside. Her day was divided between us, no amusement usurped a minute. She neglected her meals, her studies, and her play, and she was the fondest nurse that ever watched. She must have had a warm heart when she loved her father so, to give so much to me. I said her days were divided between us, but the master retired early, and I generally needed nothing after 6 o'clock. Thus the evening was her own. Poor thing! I never considered what she did with herself after tea, and though frequently, when she looked in to bid me good night, I remarked a fresh colour in her cheeks and a pinkness over her slender fingers, instead of fancying the line borrowed from a cold ride across the moors, I laid it to the charge of a hot fire in the library.
End of chapter 23. Chapter 24 of Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain.
At the close of 3 weeks I was able to quit my chamber and move about the house, and on the first occasion of my sitting up in the evening I asked Catherine to read to me, because my eyes were weak. We were in the library, the master having gone to bed. She consented, rather unwillingly I fancied, and imagining my sort of books did not suit her, I bid her please herself in the choice of what she perused. She selected one of her own favourites, and got forward steadily about an hour. Then came frequent questions.
Ellen, are not you tired? Hadn't you better lie down now? You'll be sick keeping up so long, Ellen.
No, no, dear, I'm not tired, I returned continually. Perceiving me immovable, she essayed another method of showing her disrelish for her occupation. It changed to yawning and stretching, and
"Oh, Ellen, I'm tired."
"Give over, then, and talk," I answered. That was worse. She fretted and sighed, and looked at her watch till 8, and finally went to her room, completely overdone with sleep. Judging by her peevish, heavy look, and the constant rubbing she inflicted on her eyes, the following night she seemed more impatient still, and on the 3rd from recovering my company she complained of a headache, and left me. I thought her conduct odd, and having remained alone a long while, I resolved on going and inquiring whether she were better, and asking her to come and lie on the sofa, instead of upstairs in the dark. No Catherine could I discover upstairs, and none below. The servants affirmed they had not seen her. I listened at Mr. Edgar's door. All was silence. I returned to her apartment, extinguished my candle, and seated myself in the window. The moon shone bright, a sprinkling of snow covered the ground, and I reflected that she might possibly have taken it into her head to walk about the garden for refreshment. I did detect a figure creeping along the inner fence of the park, but it was not my young mistress. On its emerging into the light, I recognized one of the grooms. He stood a considerable period, viewing the carriage road through the grounds, then started off at a brisk pace, as if he had detected something, and reappeared presently, leading Mrs. Pony, and there she was, just dismounted, and walking by its side. The man took his charge stealthily across the grass towards the stable. Cathy entered by the casement window of the drawing-room, and glided noiselessly up to where I awaited her. She put the door gently to, slipped off her snowy shoes, untied her hat, and was proceeding, unconscious of my espionage, to lay aside her mantle, when I suddenly rose and revealed myself. The surprise petrified her an instant. She uttered an inarticulate exclamation, and stood fixed. "My dear Miss Catherine," I began, too vividly impressed by her recent kindness to break into a scold. "Where have you been riding out at this hour? And why should you try to deceive me by telling a tale? Where have you been? Speak."
"To the bottom of the park,"
she stammered.
"I didn't tell a tale."
"And nowhere else?" I demanded.
"No,"
was the muttered reply. "Oh, Catherine," I cried sorrowfully, "you know you have been doing wrong, or you wouldn't be driven to uttering an untruth to me. That does grieve me. I'd rather be 3 months ill than hear you frame a deliberate lie." She sprang forward, and bursting into tears, threw her arms round my neck.
"Well, Ellen, I'm so afraid of you being angry,"
she said.
"Promise not to be angry, and you shall know the very truth. I hate to hide it."
We sat down in the window seat. I assured her I would not scold, whatever her secret might be, and I guessed it, of course, so she commenced.
"I've been to Wuthering Heights, Ellen, and I've never missed going a day since you fell ill, except thrice before, and twice after you left your room. I gave Michael books and pictures to prepare Minnie every evening, and to put her back in the stable. You mustn't scold him either, mind. I was at the Heights by 6:30, and generally stayed till 8:30, and then galloped home. It was not to amuse myself that I went. I was often wretched all the time. Now and then I was happy, once in a week perhaps. At first I expected there would be sad work persuading you to let me keep my word to Linton, for I had engaged to call again next day, when we quitted him. But as you stayed upstairs on the morrow, I escaped that trouble. While Michael was refastening the lock of the park door in the afternoon, I got possession of the key, and told him how my cousin wished me to visit him because he was sick, and couldn't come to the Grange, and how papa would object to my going. And then I negotiated with him about the pony. He is fond of reading, and he thinks of leaving soon to get married, so he offered, if I would lend him books out of the library, to do what I wished, but I preferred giving him my own, and that satisfied him better. On my second visit Linton seemed in lively spirits, and Zillah, that is their housekeeper, made us a clean room and a good fire, and told us that, as Joseph was out at a prayer meeting and Hareton Earnshaw was off with his dogs, robbing our woods of pheasants, as I heard afterwards, we might do what we liked. She brought me some warm wine and gingerbread, and appeared exceedingly good-natured, and Linton sat in the arm-chair, and I in the little rocking-chair on the hearthstone, and we laughed and talked so merrily, and found so much to say. We planned where we would go, and what we would do in summer. I needn't repeat that, because you would call it silly. One time, however, we were near quarrelling. He said the pleasantest manner of spending a hot July day was lying from morning till evening on a bank of heath in the middle of the moors, with the bees humming dreamily about among the bloom, and the larks singing high up overhead, and the blue sky and bright sun shining steadily and cloudlessly. That was his most perfect idea of heaven's happiness. Mine was rocking in a rustling green tree, with a west wind blowing, and bright white clouds flitting rapidly above, and not only larks, but throstles, and blackbirds, and linnets, and cuckoos pouring out music on every side, and the moors seen at a distance, broken into cool dusky dells, but close by great swells of long grass undulating in waves to the breeze, and woods and sounding water, and the whole world awake and wild with joy. He wanted all to lie in an ecstasy of peace. I wanted all to sparkle and dance in a glorious jubilee. I said his heaven would be only half alive, and he said mine would be drunk. I said I should fall asleep in his, and he said he could not breathe in mine, and began to grow very snappish. At last we agreed to try both, as soon as the right weather came, and then we kissed each other and were friends. After sitting still an hour, I looked at the great room with its smooth uncarpeted floor, and thought how nice it would be to play in, if we removed the table, and I asked Linton to call Zillah in to help us, and we'd have a game at blindman's buff. She should try to catch us. You used to, you know, Ellen. He wouldn't. There was no pleasure in it, he said. But he consented to play at ball with me. We found two in a cupboard among a heap of old toys, tops and hoops and battledores and shuttlecocks. One was marked C, and the other H. I wished to have the C because that stood for Catherine, and the H might be for Heathcliff, his name. But the bran came out of H, and Linton didn't like it. I beat him constantly, and he got cross again, and coughed, and returned to his chair. That night, though, he easily recovered his good humour. He was charmed with 2 or 3 pretty songs, your songs, Ellen, and when I was obliged to go, he begged and entreated me to come the following evening, and I promised. Minnie and I went flying home as light as air, and I dreamt of Wuthering Heights, and my sweet darling cousin till morning. On the morrow I was sad, partly because you were poorly, and partly that I wished my father knew, and approved of my excursions. But it was beautiful moonlight after tea, and as I rode on the gloom cleared. I shall have another happy evening, I thought to myself, and what delights me more, my pretty Linton will. I trotted up their garden, and was turning round to the back, when that fellow Earnshaw met me, took my bridle, and bid me go in by the front entrance. He patted Minnie's neck, and said she was a bonny beast, and appeared as if he wanted me to speak to him. I only told him to leave my horse alone, or else it would kick him. He answered in his vulgar accent,
"It wouldn't do much hurt if it did,"
and surveyed its legs with a smile. I was half inclined to make it try. However, he moved off to open the door, and as he raised the latch, he looked up to the inscription above, and said with a stupid mixture of awkwardness and elation,
"Miss Catherine, I can read yon now."
"Wonderful!" I exclaimed. "Pray let us hear you. You are grown clever." He spelt and drawled over by syllables the name.
Hareton Earnshaw.
"And the figures?" I cried encouragingly, perceiving that he came to a dead halt.
"I cannot tell them yet,"
he answered. "Oh, you dunce!" I said, laughing heartily at his failure. The fool stared, with a grin hovering about his lips, and a scowl gathering over his eyes, as if uncertain whether he might not join in my mirth, whether it were not pleasant familiarity, or what it really was, contempt. I settled his doubts by suddenly retrieving my gravity, and desiring him to walk away, for I came to see Linton, not him. He reddened, I saw that by the moonlight, dropped his hand from the latch, and skulked off, a picture of mortified vanity. He imagined himself to be as accomplished as Linton, I suppose, because he could spell his own name, and was marvellously discomfited that I didn't think the same.
"Stop, Miss Catherine, dear," I interrupted. "I shall not scold, but I don't like your conduct there. If you had remembered that Hareton was your cousin as much as Master Heathcliff, you would have felt how improper it was to behave in that way. At least it was praiseworthy ambition for him to desire to be as accomplished as Linton, and probably he did not learn merely to show off. You had made him ashamed of his ignorance before, I have no doubt, and he wished to remedy it and please you. To sneer at his imperfect attempt was very bad breeding. Had you been brought up in his circumstances, would you be less rude? He was as quick and as intelligent a child as ever you were, and I'm hurt that he should be despised now, because that base Heathcliff has treated him so unjustly."
"Well, Ellen, you won't cry about it, will you?"
she exclaimed, surprised at my earnestness.
"But wait, and you shall hear if he conned his ABC to please me, and if it were worth while being civil to the brute." I entered. Linton was lying on the settle, and half got up to welcome me.
"I'm ill to-night, Catherine, love,"
he said.
"and you must have all the talk, and let me listen. Come and sit by me. I was sure you wouldn't break your word, and I'll make you promise again before you go."
I knew now that I mustn't tease him, as he was ill, and I spoke softly and put no questions, and avoided irritating him in any way. I had brought some of my nicest books for him. He asked me to read a little of one, and I was about to comply, when Earnshaw burst the door open, having gathered venom with reflection. He advanced direct to us, seized Linton by the arm, and swung him off the seat.
"Get to that own room,"
he said, in a voice almost inarticulate with passion, and his face looked swelled and furious.
Take her there if she comes to see thee. Thou shalln't keep me out of this. Be gone with you both.
He swore at us, and left Linton no time to answer, nearly throwing him into the kitchen, and he clenched his fist as I followed, seemingly longing to knock me down. I was afraid for a moment, and I let one volume fall. He kicked it after me, and shut us out. I heard a malignant crackly laugh by the fire, and turning, beheld that odious Joseph standing rubbing his bony hands and quivering.
I were sure he'd sarve ye out. He's a grand lad. He's getting to right spirit in him. He knows, aye, he knows, as weel as I do, who should be to maester yonder. Eh, eh, eh. He made ye skift properly. Eh, eh, eh.
Where must we go? I asked of my cousin, disregarding the old wretch's mockery. Linton was white and trembling. He was not pretty then, Ellen. Oh, no, he looked frightful, for his thin face and large eyes were wrought into an expression of frantic, powerless fury. He grasped the handle of the door and shook it. It was fastened inside.
If you don't let me in, I'll kill you. If you don't let me in, I'll kill you.
He rather shrieked than said.
Devil, devil, I'll kill you. I'll kill you.
Joseph uttered his croaking laugh again.
There, that's the father.
He cried.
That's father. We've all a summat on either side in us. Never heed Hareton, lad. Do not be feared. He cannot get at thee.
I took hold of Linton's hands and tried to pull him away, but he shrieked so shockingly that I dared not proceed. At last his cries were choked by a dreadful fit of coughing. Blood gushed from his mouth, and he fell on the ground. I ran into the yard, sick with terror, and called for Zillah as loud as I could. She soon heard me. She was milking the cows in a shed behind the barn, and hurrying from her work, she inquired what there was to do. I hadn't breath to explain. Dragging her in, I looked about for Linton. Earnshaw had come out to examine the mischief he had caused, and he was then conveying the poor thing upstairs. Zillah and I ascended after him, but he stopped me at the top of the steps, and said I shouldn't go in. I must go home. I exclaimed that he had killed Linton, and I would enter. Joseph locked the door, and declared I should do
no sich stuff,
and asked me whether I were
bound to be as mad as him.
I stood crying till the housekeeper reappeared. She affirmed he would be better in a bit, but he couldn't do with that shrieking and din, and she took me and nearly carried me into the house. Ellen, I was ready to tear my hair off my head. I sobbed and wept so that my eyes were almost blind, and the ruffian you have such sympathy with stood opposite, presuming every now and then to bid me wisht, and denying that it was his fault, and finally, frightened by my assertions that I would tell papa, and that he should be put in prison and hanged, he commenced blubbering himself, and hurried out to hide his cowardly agitation. Still I was not rid of him. When at length they compelled me to depart, and I had got some 100 yards off the premises, he suddenly issued from the shadow of the roadside, and checked Minnie, and took hold of me.
Miss Catherine, I'm ill grieved,
He began.
but it's rather too bad.
I gave him a cut with my whip, thinking perhaps he would murder me. He let go, thundering one of his horrid curses, and I galloped home more than half out of my senses. I didn't bid you good night that evening, and I didn't go to Wuthering Heights the next. I wished to go exceedingly, but I was strangely excited, and dreaded to hear that Linton was dead sometimes, and sometimes shuddered at the thought of encountering Hareton. On the 3rd day I took courage, at least I couldn't bear longer suspense, and stole off once more. I went at 5 o'clock and walked, fancying I might manage to creep into the house, and up to Linton's room unobserved. However, the dogs gave notice of my approach. Zillah received me, and saying,
"The lad was mending nicely,"
showed me into a small, tidy, carpeted apartment, where, to my inexpressible joy, I beheld Linton laid on a little sofa, reading one of my books. But he would neither speak to me, nor look at me, through a whole hour, Ellen. He has such an unhappy temper. And what quite confounded me, when he did open his mouth, it was to utter the falsehood that I had occasioned the uproar, and Hareton was not to blame. unable to reply except passionately, I got up and walked from the room. He sent after me a faint
Catherine.
He did not reckon on being answered so, but I wouldn't turn back, and the morrow was the second day on which I stayed at home, nearly determined to visit him no more. But it was so miserable going to bed and getting up and never hearing anything about him, that my resolution melted into air before it was properly formed. It had appeared wrong to take the journey once, now it seemed wrong to refrain. Michael came to ask if he must saddle Minnie. I said yes, and considered myself doing a duty as she bore me over the hills. I was forced to pass the front windows to get to the court. It was no use trying to conceal my presence.
Young master is in the house,
said Zillah, as she saw me making for the parlour. I went in. Earnshaw was there also, but he quitted the room directly. Linton sat in the great arm-chair half asleep. Walking up to the fire, I began in a serious tone, partly meaning it to be true. As you don't like me, Linton, and as you think I come on purpose to hurt you, and pretend that I do so every time, this is our last meeting. Let us say good-bye, and tell Mr. Heathcliff that you have no wish to see me, and that he mustn't invent any more falsehoods on the subject.
Sit down and take your hat off, Catherine,
he answered.
You are so much happier than I am. You ought to be better. Papa talks enough of my defects, and shows enough scorn of me, to make it natural I should doubt myself. I doubt whether I am not altogether as worthless as he calls me, frequently, and then I feel so cross and bitter. I hate everybody. I am worthless, and bad in temper, and bad in spirit, almost always. And if you choose, you may say good-bye. You'll get rid of an annoyance. Only, Catherine, do me this justice. Believe that if I might be as sweet and as kind and as good as you are, I would be, as willingly and more so, than as happy and as healthy. And believe that your kindness has made me love you deeper than if I deserved your love. And though I couldn't and cannot help showing my nature to you, I regret it and repent it, and shall regret and repent it till I die.
I felt he spoke the truth, and I felt I must forgive him. And though we should quarrel the next moment, I must forgive him again. We were reconciled, but we cried, both of us, the whole time I stayed, not entirely for sorrow. Yet I was sorry Linton had that distorted nature. He'll never let his friends be at ease, and he'll never be at ease himself. I have always gone to his little parlour since that night, because his father returned the day after. About 3 times, I think, we have been merry and hopeful, as we were the first evening. The rest of my visits were dreary and troubled. Now with his selfishness and spite, and now with his sufferings. But I've learned to endure the former with nearly as little resentment as the latter. Mr. Heathcliff purposely avoids me. I have hardly seen him at all. Last Sunday, indeed, coming earlier than usual, I heard him abusing poor Linton cruelly for his conduct of the night before. I can't tell how he knew of it, unless he listened. Linton had certainly behaved provokingly. However, it was the business of nobody but me, and I interrupted Mr. Heathcliff's lecture by entering and telling him so. He burst into a laugh, and went away, saying he was glad I took that view of the matter. Since then I have told Linton he must whisper his bitter things. Now, Ellen, you have heard all. I can't be prevented from going to Wuthering Heights, except by inflicting misery on 2 people, whereas, if you'll only not tell papa, my going need disturb the tranquillity of none. You'll not tell, will you? It will be very heartless if you do.
I'll make up my mind on that point by tomorrow, Miss Catherine, I replied. It requires some study, and so I'll leave you to your rest and go think it over." I thought it over aloud, in my master's presence, walking straight from her room to his, and relating the whole story, with the exception of her conversations with her cousin, and any mention of Hareton. Mr. Linton was alarmed and distressed, more than he would acknowledge to me. In the morning Catherine learnt my betrayal of her confidence, and she learnt also that her secret visits were to end. In vain she wept and writhed against the interdict, and implored her father to have pity on Linton. All she got to comfort her was a promise that he would write and give him leave to come to the Grange when he pleased, but explaining that he must no longer expect to see Catherine at Wuthering Heights. Perhaps, had he been aware of his nephew's disposition and state of health, he would have seen fit to withhold even that slight consolation.
End of chapter 24. Chapter 25 of Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain.
"These things happened last winter, sir,"
said Mrs. Dean.
"hardly more than a year ago. Last winter I did not think, at another 12 months' end, I should be amusing a stranger to the family with relating them. Yet who knows how long you'll be a stranger? You're too young to rest always contented living by yourself, and I some way fancy no one could see Catherine Linton and not love her. You smile, but why do you look so lively and interested when I talk about her? And why have you asked me to hang her picture over your fireplace? And why—"
"Stop, my good friend," I cried. "It may be very possible that I should love her, but would she love me? I doubt it too much to venture my tranquillity by running into temptation. And then, my home is not here. I am of the busy world, and to its arms I must return. Go on. Was Catherine obedient to her father's commands?"
"She was,"
continued the housekeeper.
"Her affection for him was still the chief sentiment in her heart, and he spoke without anger. He spoke in the deep tenderness of one about to leave his treasure amid perils and foes, where his remembered words would be the only aid that he could bequeath to guide her. He said to me a few days afterwards,
"I wish my nephew would write, Ellen, or call. Tell me sincerely what you think of him. Is he changed for the better? Or is there a prospect of improvement as he grows to a man?"
"He's very delicate, sir," I replied, "and scarcely likely to reach manhood. But this I can say, he does not resemble his father. And if Miss Catherine had the misfortune to marry him, he would not be beyond her control, unless she were extremely and foolishly indulgent. However, master, you'll have plenty of time to get acquainted with him and see whether he would suit her. It wants 4 years and more to his being of age." Edgar sighed, and, walking to the window, looked out towards Gimmerton Kirk. It was a misty afternoon, but the February sun shone dimly, and we could just distinguish the 2 fir trees in the yard and the sparely scattered gravestones.
"I've prayed often,"
he half soliloquized,
"for the approach of what is coming, and now I begin to shrink and fear it. I thought the memory of the hour I came down that glen a bridegroom would be less sweet than the anticipation that I was soon, in a few months, or possibly weeks, to be carried up and laid in its lonely hollow. Ellen, I've been very happy with my little Cathy. Through winter nights and summer days she was a living hope at my side. But I've been as happy musing by myself among these stones, under that old church, lying, through the long June evenings, on the green mound of her mother's grave, and wishing, yearning for the time when I might lie beneath it. What can I do for Cathy? How must I quit her? I'd not care 1 moment for Linton being Heathcliff's son, nor for his taking her from me, if he could console her for my loss. I'd not care that Heathcliff gained his ends and triumphed in robbing me of my last blessing. But should Linton be unworthy, only a feeble tool of his father, I cannot abandon her to him. And, hard though it be to crush her buoyant spirit, I must persevere in making her sad while I live, and leaving her solitary when I die. Darling, I'd rather resign her to God, and lay her in the earth before me.
Resign her to God as it is, sir, I answered, and if we should lose you, which may he forbid, under his providence, I'll stand her friend and counsellor to the last. Miss Catherine is a good girl. I don't fear that she will go wilfully wrong, and people who do their duty are always finally rewarded. Spring advanced, yet my master gathered no real strength, though he resumed his walks in the grounds with his daughter. To her inexperienced notions, this itself was a sign of convalescence, and then his cheek was often flushed, and his eyes were bright. She felt sure of his recovering. On her 17th birthday, he did not visit the churchyard. It was raining, and I observed. "You'll surely not go out tonight, sir?" he answered.
No, I'll defer it this year a little longer.
He wrote again to Linton, expressing his great desire to see him, and, had the invalid been presentable, I've no doubt his father would have permitted him to come. As it was, being instructed, he returned an answer, intimating that Mr. Heathcliff objected to his calling at the Grange, but his uncle's kind remembrance delighted him, and he hoped to meet him sometimes in his rambles, and personally to petition that his cousin and he might not remain long so utterly divided. That part of his letter was simple, and probably his own. Heathcliff knew he could plead eloquently for Catherine's company then.
"I do not ask,"
he said,
"that she may visit me here. But am I never to see her, because my father forbids me to go to her home, and you forbid her to come to mine? Do now and then ride with her towards the heights, and let us exchange a few words in your presence. We have done nothing to deserve this separation, and you are not angry with me. You have no reason to dislike me. You allow yourself. Dear uncle, send me a kind note tomorrow, and leave to join you anywhere you please, except at Thrushcross-Grange. I believe an interview would convince you that my father's character is not mine. He affirms I am more your nephew than his son, and though I have faults which render me unworthy of Catherine, she has excused them, and for her sake you should also. You inquire after my health. It is better, but while I remain cut off from all hope, and doomed to solitude or society of those who never did and never will like me, how can I be cheerful and well?
Edgar, though he felt for the boy, could not consent to grant his request, because he could not accompany Catherine. He said in summer, perhaps, they might meet. Meantime he wished him to continue writing at intervals, and engaged to give him what advice and comfort he was able by letter, being well aware of his hard position in his family. Linton complied, and had he been unrestrained, would probably have spoiled all by filling his epistles with complaints and lamentations. But his father kept a sharp watch over him, and of course insisted on every line that my master sent being shown. So, instead of penning his peculiar personal sufferings and distresses, the themes constantly uppermost on his thoughts, he harped on the cruel obligation of being held asunder from his friend and love, and gently intimated that Mr. Linton must allow an interview soon, or he should fear he was purposely deceiving him with empty promises. Cathy was a powerful ally at home, and between them they at length persuaded my master to acquiesce in their having a ride or a walk together about once a week, under my guardianship, and on the moors nearest the Grange, for June found him still declining. Though he had set aside yearly a portion of his income for my young lady's fortune, he had a natural desire that she might retain, or at least return in a short time to, the house of her ancestors, and he considered her only prospect of doing that was by a union with his heir. He had no idea that the latter was failing almost as fast as himself, nor had any one, I believe. No doctor visited the Heights, and no one saw Master Heathcliff to make a report of his condition among us. I, for my part, began to fancy my forebodings were false, and that he must be actually rallying, when he mentioned riding and walking on the moors, and seemed so earnest in pursuing his object. I could not picture a father treating a dying child as tyrannically and wickedly as I afterwards learned Heathcliff had treated him, to compel this apparent eagerness, his efforts redoubling the more imminently his avaricious and unfeeling plans were threatened with defeat by death.
End of chapter 25. Chapter 26 of Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain.
Summer was already past its prime, when Edgar reluctantly yielded his assent to their entreaties, and Catherine and I set out on our first ride to join her cousin. It was a close, sultry day, devoid of sunshine, but with a sky too dappled and hazy to threaten rain, and our place of meeting had been fixed at the Guidestone, by the crossroads. On arriving there, however, a little herd boy, dispatched as a messenger, told us that
Master Little were just up the side the Heights, and he'd be much obliged to us to get on a bit further.
Then Master Linton had forgot the first injunction of his uncle, I observed. He bid us keep on the Grange land, and here we are off at once.
Well, we'll turn our horses' heads round when we reach him,
answered my companion.
Our excursion shall lie towards home.
But when we reached him, and that was scarcely a quarter of a mile from his own door, we found he had no horse, and we were forced to dismount and leave ours to graze. He lay on the heath awaiting our approach, and did not rise till we came within a few yards. Then he walked so feebly, and looked so pale, that I immediately exclaimed, "Why, Master Heathcliff, you are not fit for enjoying a ramble this morning. How ill you do look!" Catherine surveyed him with grief and astonishment. She changed the ejaculation of joy on her lips to one of alarm, and the congratulation on their long-postponed meeting to an anxious inquiry whether he were worse than usual.
"No, better,
he panted, trembling, and retaining her hand as if he needed its support, while his large blue eyes wandered timidly over her, the hollowness round them transforming to haggard wildness the languid expression they once possessed.
But you have been worse,
persisted his cousin.
Worse than when I saw you last. You are thinner, and—
I'm tired,
he interrupted hurriedly.
It is too hot for walking. Let us rest here. And in the morning I often feel sick. Papa says I grow so fast.
Badly satisfied, Cathy sat down, and he reclined beside her.
This is something like your paradise,
said she, making an effort at cheerfulness.
You recollect the 2 days we agreed to spend in the place and way each thought pleasantest. This is nearly yours, only there are clouds. But then they are so soft and mellow, it is nicer than sunshine. Next week, if you can, we'll ride down to the Grange Park, and try mine.
Linton did not appear to remember what she talked of, and he had evidently great difficulty in sustaining any kind of conversation. His lack of interest in the subjects she started, and his equal incapacity to contribute to her entertainment, were so obvious that she could not conceal her disappointment. An indefinite alteration had come over his whole person and manner. The pettishness that might be caressed into fondness had yielded to a listless apathy. There was less of the peevish temper of a child which frets and teases on purpose to be soothed, and more of the self-absorbed moroseness of a confirmed invalid, repelling consolation, and ready to regard the good-humoured mirth of others as an insult. Catherine perceived, as well as I did, that he held it rather a punishment than a gratification to endure our company, and she made no scruple of proposing presently to depart. That proposal unexpectedly roused Linton from his lethargy and threw him into a strange state of agitation. He glanced fearfully towards the heights, begging she would remain another half-hour at least.
"But I think,"
said Cathy,
"you'd be more comfortable at home than sitting here, and I cannot amuse you to-day, I see, by my tales and songs and chatter. You have grown wiser than I in these 6 months. You have little taste for my diversions now, or else if I could amuse you, I'd willingly stay."
"Stay to rest yourself,"
he replied.
"And, Catherine, don't think or say that I'm very unwell. It is the heavy weather and heat that makes me dull, and I walked about before you came. A great deal for me. Tell uncle I'm in tolerable health, will you?"
"I'll tell him that you say so, Linton. I couldn't affirm that you are,"
observed my young lady, wondering at his pertinacious assertion of what was evidently an untruth.
"And be here again next Thursday,"
continued he, shunning her puzzled gaze,
"and give him my thanks for permitting you to come. My best thanks, Catherine. And if you did meet my father, and he asked you about me, don't lead him to suppose that I've been extremely silent and stupid. Don't look sad and downcast as you are doing. He'll be angry."
"I care nothing for his anger,"
exclaimed Cathy, imagining she would be its object.
"But I do,"
said her cousin, shuddering.
"Don't provoke him against me, Catherine, for he is very hard."
"Is he severe to you, Master Heathcliff?" I inquired. "Has he grown weary of indulgence, and passed from passive to active hatred?" Linton looked at me, but did not answer, and, after keeping her seat by his side another 10 minutes, during which his head fell drowsily on his breast, and he uttered nothing except suppressed moans of exhaustion or pain, Cathy began to seek solace in looking for bilberries and sharing the produce of her researches with me. She did not offer them to him, for she saw further notice would only weary and annoy.
"Is it half an hour now, Ellen?"
she whispered in my ear at last.
"I can't tell why we should stay. He's asleep, and papa will be wanting us back."
"Well, we must not leave him asleep," I answered. "Wait till he wakes, and be patient. You were mighty eager to set off, but your longing to see poor Linton has soon evaporated."
"Why did he wish to see me?"
returned Catherine.
"In his crossest humours formerly I liked him better than I do in his present curious mood. It's just as if it were a task he was compelled to perform, this interview, for fear his father should scold him. But I'm hardly going to come to give Mr. Heathcliff pleasure, whatever reason he may have for ordering Linton to undergo this penance. And though I'm glad he's better in health, I'm sorry he's so much less pleasant, and so much less affectionate to me."
"You think he is better in health, then?" I said.
"Yes,"
she answered.
"because he always made such a great deal of his sufferings, you know. He is not tolerably well, as he told me to tell papa, but he's better, very likely."
"There you differ with me, Miss Cathy," I remarked. "I should conjecture him to be far worse." Linton here started from his slumber in bewildered terror, and asked if anyone had called his name.
"No,"
said Catherine.
"unless in dreams. I cannot conceive how you manage to doze out of doors in the morning."
I thought I heard my father,"
he gasped, glancing up to the frowning Nab above us.
"You are sure nobody spoke?"
"Quite sure,"
replied his cousin.
"only Ellen and I were disputing concerning your health. Are you truly stronger, Linton, than when we separated in winter? If you be, I'm certain one thing is not stronger, your regard for me. Speak. Are you?
The tears gushed from Linton's eyes as he answered,
Yes, I am.
and still under the spell of the imaginary voice, his gaze wandered up and down to detect its owner. Cathy rose.
For to-day we must part,
she said,
and I won't conceal that I have been sadly disappointed with our meeting, though I'll mention it to nobody but you. Not that I stand in awe of Mr. Heathcliff.
Hush,
murmured Linton.
For God's sake, hush. He's coming.
And he clung to Catherine's arm, striving to detain her. But at that announcement she hastily disengaged herself, and whistled to Minnie, who obeyed her like a dog.
I'll be here next Thursday,
she cried, springing to the saddle.
Good-bye. Quick, Ellen.
And so we left him, scarcely conscious of our departure, so absorbed was he in anticipating his father's approach. Before we reached home, Catherine's displeasure softened into a perplexed sensation of pity and regret, largely blended with vague, uneasy doubts about Linton's actual circumstances, physical and social, in which I partook, though I counselled her not to say much, for a second journey would make us better judges. My master requested an account of our ongoings. His nephew's offering of thanks was duly delivered, Miss Cathy gently touching on the rest. I also threw little light on his inquiries, for I hardly knew what to hide and what to reveal.
End of chapter 26. Chapter 27 of Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain.
7 days glided away, every one marking its course by the henceforth rapid alteration of Edgar Linton's state. The havoc that months had previously wrought was now emulated by the inroads of hours. Catherine we would fain have deluded yet, but her own quick spirit refused to delude her. It divined in secret, and brooded on the dreadful probability gradually ripening into certainty. She had not the heart to mention her ride when Thursday came round. I mentioned it for her, and obtained permission to order her out of doors, for the library, where her father stopped a short time daily, the brief period he could bear to sit up, and his chamber had become her whole world. She grudged each moment that did not find her bending over his pillow or seated by his side. Her countenance grew wan with watching and sorrow, and my master gladly dismissed her to what he flattered himself would be a happy change of scene and society, drawing comfort from the hope that she would not now be left entirely alone after his death. He had a fixed idea, I guessed by several observations he let fall, that, as his nephew resembled him in person, he would resemble him in mind, for Linton's letters bore few or no indications of his defective character, and I, through pardonable weakness, refrained from correcting the error, asking myself what good there would be in disturbing his last moments with information that he had neither power nor opportunity to turn to account. We deferred our excursion till the afternoon, a golden afternoon of August, every breath from the hills so full of life that it seemed whoever respired it, though dying, might revive. Catherine's face was just like the landscape, shadows and sunshine flitting over it in rapid succession, but the shadows rested longer, and the sunshine was more transient, and her poor little heart reproached itself for even that passing forgetfulness of its cares. We discerned Linton watching at the same spot he had selected before. My young mistress alighted, and told me that, as she was resolved to stay a very little while, I had better hold the pony and remain on horseback, but I dissented. I wouldn't risk losing sight of the charge committed to me a minute, so we climbed the slope of heath together. Master Heathcliff received us with greater animation on this occasion, not the animation of high spirits, though, nor yet of joy. It looked more like fear.
"It is late,"
he said, speaking short and with difficulty.
"Is not your father very ill? I thought you wouldn't come.
Why won't you be candid?
cried Catherine, swallowing her greeting.
Why cannot you say at once you don't want me? It is strange, Linton, that for the second time you have brought me here on purpose, apparently to distress us both, and for no reason besides.
Linton shivered and glanced at her, half supplicating, half ashamed, but his cousin's patience was not sufficient to endure this enigmatical behaviour.
My father is very ill,
she said.
And why am I called from his bedside? Why didn't you send to absolve me from my promise, when you wished I wouldn't keep it? Come, I desire an explanation. Playing and trifling are completely banished out of my mind, and I can't dance attendance on your affectations now.
My affections,
he murmured.
What are they? For heaven's sake, Catherine, don't look so angry. Despise me as much as you please. I am a worthless, cowardly wretch. I can't be scorned enough, but I'm too mean for your anger. Hate my father, and spare me for contempt.
Nonsense,
cried Catherine in a passion.
Foolish, silly boy. And there he trembles, as if I were really going to touch him. You needn't bespeak contempt, Linton. Anybody will have it spontaneously at your service. Get off. I shall return home. It is folly dragging you from the hearthstone and pretending— What do we pretend? Let go my frock. If I pitied you for crying and looking so very frightened, you should spurn such pity. Ellen, tell him how disgraceful this conduct is. Rise and don't degrade yourself into an abject reptile. Don't!
With streaming face and an expression of agony, Linton had thrown his nerveless frame along the ground. He seemed convulsed with exquisite terror.
Oh,
he sobbed.
I cannot bear it. Catherine, I'm a traitor too, and I dare not tell you. But leave me, and I shall be killed. Dear Catherine, my life is in your hands, and you have said you loved me, and if you did, it wouldn't harm you. You'll not go, then? Kind, sweet, good Catherine, and perhaps you will consent, and he'll let me die with you.
My young lady, on witnessing his intense anguish, stooped to raise him. The old feeling of indulgent tenderness overcame her vexation, and she grew thoroughly moved and alarmed.
Consent to what?
She asked.
To stay? Tell me the meaning of this strange talk, and I will. You contradict your own words and distract me. Be calm and frank, and confess at once all that weighs on your heart. You wouldn't injure me, Linton, would you? You wouldn't let any enemy hurt me if you could prevent it. I'll believe you are a coward for yourself, but not a cowardly betrayer of your best friend.
But my father threatened me,
gasped the boy, clasping his attenuated fingers.
And I dread him. I dread him. I dare not tell.
Oh, well,
said Catherine with scornful compassion.
Keep your secret. I'm no coward. Save yourself. I'm not afraid.
Her magnanimity provoked his tears. He wept wildly, kissing her supporting hands, and yet could not summon courage to speak out. I was cogitating what the mystery might be, and determined Catherine should never suffer to benefit him or anyone else by my good will, when, hearing a rustle among the ling, I looked up and saw Mr. Heathcliff almost close upon us, descending the heights. He didn't cast a glance towards my companions, though they were sufficiently near for Linton's sobs to be audible, but, hailing me in the most hearty tone he assumed to none besides, and the sincerity of which I couldn't avoid doubting, he said,
"It is something to see you so near to my house, Nelly. How are you at the Grange? Let us hear. The rumour goes," he added in a lower tone, "that Edgar Linton is on his deathbed. Perhaps they exaggerate his illness?"
"No, my master is dying," I replied. "It is true enough. A sad thing it will be for us all, but a blessing for him."
"How long will he last, do you think?"
he asked. "I don't know," I said.
"Because,"
he continued, looking at the two young people who were fixed under his eye. Linton appeared as if he could not venture to stir or raise his head, and Catherine could not move on his account.
"because that lad yonder seems determined to beat me, and I'd thank his uncle to be quick and go before him. Hallo, has the whelp been playing that game long? I did give him some lessons about snivelling. Is he pretty lively with Miss Linton generally?"
"Lively? No, he has shown the greatest distress," I answered. "To see him, I should say that instead of rambling with his sweetheart on the hills, he ought to be in bed, under the hands of a doctor."
"He shall be in a day or two,"
muttered Heathcliff.
"But first, get up, Linton, get up.
He shouted.
Don't grovel on the ground there. Up this moment."
Linton had sunk prostrate again in another paroxysm of helpless fear, caused by his father's glance towards him, I suppose. There was nothing else to produce such humiliation. He made several efforts to obey, but his little strength was annihilated for the time, and he fell back again with a moan. Mr. Heathcliff advanced and lifted him to lean against a ridge of turf.
"Now,"
said he, with curbed ferocity,
"I'm getting angry, and if you don't command that paltry spirit of yours, damn you, get up directly."
"I will, father,"
he panted.
"Only let me alone, or I shall faint. I've done as you wished, I'm sure. Catherine will tell you that I have been cheerful. Ah, keep by me, Catherine. Give me your hand."
"Take mine,"
said his father.
"Stand on your feet. There now, she'll lend you her arm. That's right, look at her. You would imagine I was the devil himself, Miss Linton, to excite such horror. Be so kind as to walk home with him, will you? He shudders if I touch him."
"Linton, dear,"
whispered Catherine,
"I can't go to Wuthering Heights. Papa has forbidden me. He'll not harm you. Why are you so afraid?"
"I can never re-enter that house,"
he answered.
"I'm not to re-enter it without you."
"Stop,"
cried his father.
"We'll respect Catherine's filial scruples. Nelly, take him in, and I'll follow your advice concerning the doctor without delay."
"You'll do well," replied I, "but I must remain with my mistress. To mind your son is not my business."
"You are very stiff,"
said Heathcliff.
"I know that, but you'll force me to pinch the baby and make it scream before it moves your charity. Come then, my hero, are you willing to return escorted by me?"
He approached once more, and made as if he would seize the fragile being, but, shrinking back, Linton clung to his cousin, and implored her to accompany him, with a frantic importunity that admitted no denial. However, I disapproved. I couldn't hinder her. Indeed, how could she have refused him herself? What was filling him with dread we had no means of discerning, but there he was, powerless under its grip, and any addition seemed capable of shocking him into idiocy. We reached the threshold. Catherine walked in, and I stood waiting till she had conducted the invalid to a chair, expecting her out immediately, when Mr. Heathcliff, pushing me forward, exclaimed,
"My house is not stricken with the plague, Nelly, and I have a mind to be hospitable today. Sit down and allow me to shut the door."
He shut and locked it also. I started.
"You shall have tea before you go home,"
he added.
"I am by myself. Hareton is gone with some cattle to the Leas, and Zillah and Joseph are off on a journey of pleasure, and though I'm used to being alone, I'd rather have some interesting company if I can get it. Miss Linton, take your seat by him. I give you what I have. The present is hardly worth accepting, but I have nothing else to offer. It is Linton, I mean. How she does stare! It's odd what a savage feeling I have to anything that seems afraid of me. Had I been born where laws are less strict and tastes less dainty, I should treat myself to a slow vivisection of those two as an evening's amusement."
He drew in his breath, struck the table, and swore to himself.
"By hell, I hate them."
I am not afraid of you,
exclaimed Catherine, who could not hear the latter part of his speech. She stepped close up, her black eyes flashing with passion and resolution.
Give me that key. I will have it,
she said.
I wouldn't eat or drink here if I was starving.
Heathcliff had the key in his hand that remained on the table. He looked up, seized with a sort of surprise at her boldness, or possibly reminded, by her voice and glance, of the person from whom she inherited it. She snatched at the instrument, and half succeeded in getting it out of his loosened fingers, but her action recalled him to the present. He recovered it speedily.
"Now, Catherine Linton,"
he said,
"stand off or I shall knock you down, and that will make Mrs. Dean mad."
Regardless of this warning, she captured his closed hand and its contents again.
We will go,
she repeated, exerting her utmost efforts to cause the iron muscles to relax, and finding that her nails made no impression, she applied her teeth pretty sharply. Heathcliff glanced at me, a glance that kept me from interfering a moment. Catherine was too intent on his fingers to notice his face. He opened them suddenly, and resigned the object of dispute, but, ere she had well secured it, he seized her with the liberated hand, and, pulling her on his knee, administered with the other a shower of terrific slaps on both sides of the head, each sufficient to have fulfilled his threat, had she been able to fall. At this diabolical violence I rushed on him furiously. "You villain!" I began to cry. "You villain!" A touch on the chest silenced me. I am stout, and soon put out of breath, and, what with that and the rage, I staggered dizzily back and felt ready to suffocate, or to burst a blood vessel. The scene was over in 2 minutes. Catherine, released, put her 2 hands to her temples, and looked just as if she were not sure whether her ears were off or on. She trembled like a reed, poor thing, and leant against the table perfectly bewildered.
"I know how to chastise children, you see,"
said the scoundrel grimly, as he stooped to repossess himself of the key, which had dropped to the floor.
"Go to Linton now, as I told you, and cry at your ease. I shall be your father tomorrow, all the father you'll have in a few days, and you shall have plenty of that. You can bear plenty, you're no weakling. You shall have a daily taste if I catch such a devil of a temper in your eyes again."
Cathy ran to me instead of Linton, and knelt down, and put her burning cheek on my lap, weeping aloud. Her cousin had shrunk into a corner of the settle, as quiet as a mouse, congratulating himself, I dare say, that the correction had alighted on another than him. Mr. Heathcliff, perceiving us all confounded, rose, and expeditiously made the tea himself. The cups and saucers were laid ready. He poured it out, and handed me a cup.
"Wash away your spleen,"
he said,
"and help your own naughty pet and mine. It is not poisoned, though I prepared it. I'm going out to seek your horses."
Our first thought on his departure was to force an exit somewhere. We tried the kitchen door, but that was fastened outside. We looked at the windows. They were too narrow for even Cathy's little figure. "Master Linton," I cried, seeing we were regularly imprisoned, "you know what your diabolical father is after, and you shall tell us, or I'll box your ears, as he has done your cousin's."
Yes, Linton, you must tell,
said Catherine.
It was for your sake I came, and it will be wickedly ungrateful if you refuse.
Give me some tea. I'm thirsty, and then I'll tell you,
he answered.
Mrs. Dean, go away. I don't like you standing over me. Now, Catherine, you are letting your tears fall into my cup. I won't drink that. Give me another.
Catherine pushed another to him and wiped her face. I felt disgusted at the little wretch's composure, since he was no longer in terror for himself. The anguish he had exhibited on the moor subsided as soon as ever he entered Wuthering Heights, so I guessed he had been menaced with an awful visitation of wrath if he failed in decoying us there, and that accomplished, he had no further immediate fears.
Papa wants us to be married,
he continued, after sipping some of the liquid.
And he knows your papa wouldn't let us marry now. And he's afraid of my dying if we wait. So we are to be married in the morning, and you are to stay here all night. And if you do as he wishes, you shall return home next day, and take me with you."
"Take you with her, pitiful changeling!" I exclaimed. "You marry! Why, the man is mad, or he thinks us fools, every one. And do you imagine that beautiful young lady, that healthy, hearty girl, will tie herself to a little perishing monkey like you? Are you cherishing the notion that anybody, let alone Miss Catherine Linton, would have you for a husband? You want whipping for bringing us in here at all, with your dastardly puling tricks, and don't look so silly now. I've a very good mind to shake you severely for your contemptible treachery and your imbecile conceit." I did give him a slight shaking, but it brought on the cough, and he took to his ordinary resource of moaning and weeping, and Catherine rebuked me.
"Stay all night? No,"
she said, looking slowly round.
"Ellen, I'll burn that door down, but I'll get out."
And she would have commenced the execution of her threat directly, but Linton was up in alarm for his dear self again. He clasped her in his two feeble arms, sobbing,
"Won't you have me, and save me? Not let me come to the Grange? Oh, darling Catherine, you mustn't go and leave after all. You must obey my father. You must."
"I must obey my own,"
she replied,
"and relieve him from this cruel suspense. The whole night? What would he think? He'll be distressed already. I'll either break or burn away out of the house. Be quiet, you're in no danger. But if you hinder me— Linton, I love papa better than you."
The mortal terror he felt of Mr. Heathcliff's anger restored to the boy his coward's eloquence. Catherine was near distraught. Still, she persisted that she must go home, and tried entreaty in her turn, persuading him to subdue his selfish agony. While they were thus occupied, our gaoler re-entered.
"Your beasts have trotted off,"
he said.
"And now, Linton, snivelling again? What has she been doing to you? Come, come, have done and get to bed. In a month or two, my lad, you'll be able to pay her back her present tyrannies with a vigorous hand. You're pining for pure love, are you? Nothing else in the world, and she shall have you. There, to bed. Zillah won't be here tonight. You must undress yourself. Hush! Hold your noise. Once in your own room, I'll not come near you. You needn't fear. By chance, you've managed tolerably. I'll look to the rest."
He spoke these words, holding the door open for his son to pass, and the latter achieved his exit exactly as a spaniel might, which suspected the person who attended on it of designing a spiteful squeeze. The lock was re-secured. Heathcliff approached the fire, where my mistress and I stood silent. Catherine looked up, and instinctively raised her hand to her cheek. His neighbourhood revived a painful sensation. Anybody else would have been incapable of regarding the childish act with sternness, but he scowled on her and muttered,
"Oh, you are not afraid of me. Your courage is well disguised. You seem damnably afraid."
"I am afraid now,"
she replied,
"because if I stay, papa will be miserable. And how can I endure making him miserable, when he— Mr. Heathcliff, let me go home. I promised to marry Linton. Papa would like me to, and I love him. Why should you wish to force me to do what I'll willingly do of myself?"
"Let him dare to force you," I cried. "There's law in this land, thank God. There is, though we be in an out-of-the-way place. I'd inform if he were my own son, and it's felony without benefit of clergy."
"Silence,"
said the ruffian.
"To the devil with your clamour. I don't want you to speak. Miss Linton, I shall enjoy myself remarkably in thinking your father will be miserable. I shall not sleep for satisfaction. You could have hit on no surer way of fixing your residence under my roof for the next 24 hours than informing me that such an event would follow. As to your promise to marry Linton, I'll take care you shall keep it. for you shall not quit this place till it is fulfilled.
Send Ellen, then, to let papa know I'm safe,
exclaimed Catherine, weeping bitterly.
Or marry me now. Poor papa. Ellen, he'll think we're lost. What shall we do?
Not he. He'll think you are tired of waiting on him, and run off for a little amusement,
answered Heathcliff.
You cannot deny that you entered my house of your own accord, in contempt of his injunctions to the contrary, and it is quite natural that you should desire amusement at your age, and that you would weary of nursing a sick man, and that man only your father. Catherine, his happiest days were over when your days began. He cursed you, I dare say, for coming into the world. I did, at least, and it would just do if he cursed you as he went out of it. I'd join him. I don't love you. How should I? Weep away. As far as I can see, it will be your chief diversion hereafter, unless Linton make amends for other losses, and your provident parent appears to fancy he may. His letters of advice and consolation entertained me vastly. In his last he recommended my Jewel to be careful of his, and kind to her when he got her. Careful and kind, that's paternal. But Linton requires his whole stock of care and kindness for himself. Linton can play the little tyrant well. He'll undertake to torture any number of cats if their teeth be drawn and their claws pared. He'll be able to tell his uncle fine tales of his kindness when you get home, I assure you.
You're right there, I said. Explain your son's character. Show his resemblance to yourself, and then I hope Miss Cathy will think twice before she takes the cockatrice.
I don't much mind speaking of his amiable qualities now,
he answered,
because she must either accept him or remain a prisoner, and you along with her, till your master dies. I can detain you both, quite concealed, here. If you doubt, encourage her to retract her word, and you'll have an opportunity of judging.
I'll not retract my word,
said Catherine.
I'll marry him within this hour, if I may go to Thrushcross Grange afterwards. Mr. Heathcliff, you're a cruel man, but you're not a fiend. And you won't, from mere malice, destroy irrevocably all my happiness. If papa thought I had left him on purpose, and if he died before I returned, could I bear to live? I've given over crying, but I'm going to kneel here at your knee, and I'll not get up, and I'll not take my eyes from your face till you look back at me. No, don't turn away, do look. You'll see nothing to provoke you. I don't hate you. I'm not angry that you struck me. Have you never loved anybody in all your life, uncle? Never? Oh, you must look once. I'm so wretched, you can't help being sorry and pitying me.
Keep your F's fingers off, and move, or I'll kick you,
cried Heathcliff, brutally repulsing her.
I'd rather be hugged by a snake. How the devil can you dream of fawning on me? I detest you.
He shrugged his shoulders, shook himself indeed, as if his flesh crept with aversion, and thrust back his chair, while I got up and opened my mouth to commence a downright torrent of abuse. But I was rendered dumb in the middle of the first sentence by a threat that I should be shown into a room by myself the very next syllable I uttered. It was growing dark. We heard a sound of voices at the garden gate. Our host hurried out instantly. He had his wits about him. We had not. There was a talk of 2 or 3 minutes, and he returned alone. "I thought it had been your cousin Hareton," I observed to Catherine. "I wish he would arrive. Who knows but he might take our part?"
"It was 3 servants sent to seek you from the Grange,"
said Heathcliff, overhearing me.
"You should have opened a lattice and called out. But I could swear that chit is glad you didn't. She's glad to be obliged to stay, I'm certain."
At learning the chance we had missed, we both gave vent to our grief without control, and he allowed us to wail on till 9 o'clock. Then he bid us go upstairs, through the kitchen to Zilla's chamber, and I whispered my companion to obey. Perhaps we might contrive to get through the window there, or into a garret, and out by its skylight. The window, however, was narrow, like those below, and the garret trap was safe from our attempts, for we were fastened in as before. We neither of us lay down. Catherine took her station by the lattice and watched anxiously for morning, a deep sigh being the only answer I could obtain to my frequent entreaties that she would try to rest. I seated myself in a chair and rocked to and fro, passing harsh judgment on my many derelictions of duty, from which it struck me then all the misfortunes of my employers sprang. It was not the case in reality, I am aware, but it was, in my imagination, that dismal night, and I thought Heathcliff himself less guilty than I. At 7 o'clock he came, and inquired if Miss Linton had risen. She ran to the door immediately, and answered,
"Yes."
"Here, then,"
he said, opening it and pulling her out. I rose to follow, but he turned the lock again. I demanded my release.
"Be patient,"
he replied.
"I'll send up your breakfast in a while."
I thumped on the panels and rattled the latch angrily, and Catherine asked why I was still shut up. He answered, I must try to endure it another hour, and then went away. I endured it 2 or 3 hours. At length I heard a footstep, not Heathcliff's.
"I've brought you something to eat,"
said a voice.
"Open the door."
Complying eagerly, I beheld Hareton, laden with food enough to last me all day.
"Take it,"
he added, thrusting the tray into my hand. "Stay 1 minute," I began.
"Nay,"
cried he, and retired, regardless of any prayers I could put forth to detain him. And there I remained enclosed the whole day, and the whole of the next night, and another, and another. 5 nights and 4 days I remained altogether, seeing nobody but Hareton once every morning, and he was a model of a gaoler, surly and dumb, and deaf to every attempt at moving his sense of justice or compassion.
End of chapter 27.